This is the Presented by Men's Breakfast program, May 14th, 2022. The quote for the day is from Martin Luther King Jr. in his Nobel lecture of December 11th, 1964. In spite of temporary victories, violence never brings permanent peace. The scripture for today is from Matthew 5:9. God blesses those who work for peace, for they shall be called children of God. There are some echoes that I hear in the Zoom presentation. So if you're not speaking, if you mute your microphone, that might improve the quality for others. Our morning grace for those having breakfast now or who are about to have or already have digested it is, as we gather here this morning, help us to use this food as we put in an extra effort to follow the Word of God, walking with us as we decide what we will do and what we will let go of. Remember, all in this glorious world has been through God's hands, and we are humbled in the process. Amen. Today, our speakers are from Tomorrow's Women. Tomorrow's Women started in Santa Fe, being called Creativity for Peace. And very soon, the 20th year anniversary will be occurring, actually next year. Their leader, Terry, is out of town, and today, our main presenter is Cris Caltagirone. And she will be doing the presentation and introducing her colleague. Cris is known for her email trailer. Scared and sacred are spelled with the same letters. Awful proceeds from the same root as awesome. Terrify and terrific. Every negative experience holds the seeds of transformation. And apparently that is a quote from Alan Cohen. Anyway, help me welcome Cris Caltagirone. Cris,
very kind. And I'm gonna introduce and pass the baton on to my wonderful colleague Alana Grimstad, who is our head of our communications at Tomorrow's Women, and we'll begin our presentation. Alana, take it away.
Thank you, Cris, and thank you for having us. We're really excited to be here and to share the incredible work that we do at Tomorrow's Women. So I'm going to share my screen with you because we are going to use this presentation to help explain the wonderful work we do. So can I have a quick thumbs up if you can see my screen? Great. So we're going to start with this image, this collection of images, which really exemplifies what most of us think about when we think about Israel and Palestine. We think of military protests, caskets, anger, fear, hatred. And these are all images that were in the news this very week. We didn't have to go very far. This was from these last few days when a Palestinian journalist was killed, a beloved journalist, and the Palestinian community was heartbroken. Okay, give me one moment. The presentation seemed to cut out, so give me one moment to get it back. However, there's another way to view Israelis and Palestinians, and it's the Tomorrow's Women way. These are also images of Jewish Israelis and Palestinians together. Much different feelings that these images evoke, right? Community, listening, sisterhood, partnership. And that's exactly what we do. We bring young women from Israel and Palestine together to listen and learn from each other so that they can be partners for a more peaceful and just world. And then they come to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where they learn these skills and they bond, and then they go back to their war-inflicted homes, and they bring those new skills and new feelings of determination with them, and go on to slowly, one by one, change the world. It's really remarkable to see the transformation they do. Courage, leadership, change. That's what we're all about. We envision a world where young women lead their communities towards peace, where occupation ends. Oh no, bear with me. PowerPoint, what are you doing? Technical difficulty. Apologize. Okay, let's start this part again. We envision a world where young women lead their communities towards peace, where occupation ends and justice and human rights prevail. Okay, and we have been doing this work for nearly 20 years. It was founded in 2003 out of the realization that it takes one person to change history. And this vision holds true today. We believed when equipped with the tools, skills, and confidence to lead, the power of just one extraordinary woman can transform conflict with strength and compassion. And before we get into the details about who Cris and I are and really how this work happens, we want to set the tone with this short video that really sums up what it is that we do.
I'm done with killing. I'm done with shooting. I'm really done with hurting. I realize that we are the victims of this stupid conflict. We, Palestinians and the Israeli side, young people like us, are the victims. So I just want to live in peace.
We're an international nonprofit that's based here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we work to do peacemaking work in Israel and Palestine. Young women aged 15 to 17 are recruited in Israel and Palestine through our staff there. The camp is really how it all began, and it's a 3-week, very intensive transformational process. And it's based in about 40 hours of dialogue that's facilitated by professional Israeli and Palestinian facilitators. One of our mottos is, an enemy is only someone whose story you've never heard.
So my name is Luna. I'm 19 years old. I'm a Palestinian living in Israel. I'm Sivan Keden-Winker. I'm 32. I live in Tel Aviv. I've never talked about being bullied because of my identity or the stuff that I had experienced. And camp really gave me the option to talk about it and open up about it. I began as a camper, and I had a really life-changing experience. I think it's very important. It's always been important because the way we share our stories is the power we have. And this is what I think Women of Tomorrow is based on, about the ability to share my story, have people hearing me, and the ability to listen.
I want to reach the peace, to reach the goal. My goal is to make peace with the Jewish girls, with the Palestinian girls, to have fun with them also, not to just cry, just to share our bad feelings.
Like this, but you weren't there, and I tell you from my experience that the trust that we had for each other is not something that you can throw away.
They also do therapeutic art. And the goal of that is not so much art making as it is helping them release a lot of these deep emotions as they're going through this process.
We did a collage that I really liked. It was a collage of war and peace. It really made us think a lot. Why are we in this situation? Do we know what's peace at all? I mean, what is peace? I never lived in peace.
To see the transformation happen between two people that are essentially told to be enemies and that they should hate each other. And yet after 3 weeks of sitting in a circle, eating together, sleeping in the same rooms, doing ropes courses and bonding, that it can so quickly be broken down and the humanity can be seen so clearly in such a short amount of time. And that these are lifetime relationships that many of these young women still have.
The girls that I met, I talked to a lot of them until now.
It's easy to hate when you don't know the other person. It's easy to say, yeah, they should die, they should not be here. But then when you meet the people and when they become your friends, they cannot be your enemy.
Every time someone mentions tomorrow's women, it makes me smile.
Being able to share that story on a much broader level with the goal of sharing the inspiration and lifting up the voices of these brave young women. That through this, not only will more people learn about our program, they will support it so that we can continue to do this good work.
Okay, so this gives you a sense of who we are and the power of what we do. Very briefly, we want to introduce ourselves. I'm Alana Grimstad, and I'm the Communications Associate and Volunteer Coordinator for Tomorrow's Women. My background is in local TV news. I came to New Mexico to work for KOAT TV. That was 11 years ago. Have also been a freelance writer and photographer, and joined, both Cris and I are pretty new to the organization, joined last fall, and I live in Santa Fe with my husband and 2 daughters who are 4 and 7. All right, and now I'd love to pass it to Cris so she can introduce herself and the incredible experience she brings to the organization.
Hello. So my name is Cris Caltagirone, and my background is in international development. I've worked 30 years all over the world, more recently in conflict zones, Afghanistan, Rwanda, Liberia. The focus of my studies have been in nonviolent social change with a background in cultural anthropology and international development. And I have a farm in Velarde, a 200-tree apple orchard that I care of. And that's about me. Next slide. Sorry for our technical troubles with this.
I apologize. I am not sure why PowerPoint keeps cutting out. So I'll just keep having to reset it, and please be patient with me. I apologize.
So as an overview, Alana, am I doing this part?
Yes, Cris, you are.
Okay.
I'm just going to try to get us back to where we were.
I was just going to take us through an overview of our programs, which have developed over these past 20 years. Oh, goodness.
Well, while you're working on the technical aspects, I just want to make one comment. Well, first of all, Zoom itself was sending up little apologies for their technical difficulties. But one thing that has come to my mind in the presentation you've done so far is an aspect of tomorrow's women that I don't think I appreciated until this presentation. And that is that the organization is keeping the dream alive of what it could look like in Israel, Palestine, when full peace would be achieved. So in effect, you're creating a community where girls are able to interact as if nothing had happened in Israel and Palestine. And that image of, oh, what could this be? That's a vision. And so in that sense, I think Tomorrow's Women is very visionary in its approach, and creating, maybe one of your goals might be to create a vision for what could be possible, because that's certainly really big manifest in what you've presented so far. Anyway, back to you.
Wow.
So the real gist of our programs, and we are a woman-founded, woman-run, woman-focused organization. The real gist of our work is bringing women's voices into the peace-building arena, of which they are not present right now, and they haven't been represented in negotiations or any formal and mostly informal processes around peace building and overcoming the conflict in the Middle East. And it's been shown in research that when you bring women's voices into peace building forums, you create more long-lasting and more equitable peace. And so following that, we're creating pathways for young women to engage in multiple aspects of the conflict, break down stereotypes, break down the divisions which are dividing the groups involved, and come together. And that's really important. It's an important starting point. I guess we've lost our PowerPoint altogether. Do you want me to pull up mine, Alana? How about that?
That's a great idea. I was just going to try to work with a cleaner version.
Sorry, guys. This is crazy.
Thanks for your patience.
So while Cris
right.
is doing that, Alana, could you tell us how you first heard about Creativity for Peace or Tomorrow's Women? And
Absolutely. So I heard about it through a mutual friend who had been very involved. I was immediately drawn to the organization and reached out to the executive director and the board president and just said, how can I be a part of this as a volunteer? as an employee in any capacity. This is such amazing work that you're doing, and I would love to be a part of it. Just so happens that there was a need for someone with my background and experiences, and so here I am, and it's been incredible. All right, Cris has saved the day. She has the PowerPoint, so I'm going to let her take it away and tell you about the really fantastic programs that we offer.
So all of our programs share the common thread of working with young women to build their leadership skills so that they can be strong, compassionate leaders and partner to resolve conflicts and engage in inspiring actions that promote equality, peace, and justice. Our foundational program is the Young Leader Program. That's the 3-week camp that we hold in Santa Fe. That brings young Palestinian and Israelis together for intense dialogue and our homedates and some fantastic coming together, and is carried on in our next phase of our program, which is the Advanced Leadership Initiative. And that basically builds on the foundation of dialogue and understanding and takes it to the next level with program design and implementation. They create cross-border projects and work in teams and then compete for microgrant funds to implement their projects. And we select and fund 3 projects from every ALI or Advanced Leadership Initiative group. We'll share some of those projects a little later on. Gaza Girls is one of our newer programs. It's been around 3 years now. It came out of an application to our peace camp by a Gaza girl. And since we can't get the girls out of Gaza to come to our peace camp, we actually started a whole program to address the need that Gaza girls have to engage. It's a virtual program. It was founded by Amira, who happens to be a former camper and is now a staffer in our organization. Fantastic program, and we'll explain a little bit more about that later. And then our last program is the New Mexico Peace Ambassadors. That's actually been running for almost 10 years now. And it focuses on young high school girls here in Mexico. It builds the same foundation of compassionate leadership and partnering to resolve conflicts, a little bit more focused on local conflicts, but it has an introduction to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and how to engage in compassionate listening. And then they engage with the Gaza Girls and also the Young Leader Program at camp. There's exchanges, cross-cultural exchanges that happen over the summer. And details, our Young Leader Program is the camp that we run in Santa Fe. We're bringing that camp back this year after a 3-year disruption of COVID. We're so excited to have that back here in New Mexico. It's a really beloved program by our young women and also by our local supporters, including First Presbyterian. Thank you so much for your support. That's a 3-week intensive. We bring skilled facilitators from the Middle East to come facilitate that. There's a therapeutic art component led by one of the professors, Magdalena Karlik from Southwestern College. We also have student interns that work to support the camp. They learn compassionate listening, authentic speaking, leadership skills, and they leave with an understanding of their peers that live in drastically different life experiences. And they are learning to become agents of change and advocates for change in the Middle Eastern conflict.
How many young women have gone through the program?
Oh, Alana, how many?
So we have more than 300 alumni who have gone through the program over the course of these last 20 years.
Nice.
And that's just this Young Leader Program. We're also affecting many other people through our other programs.
Right.
But we have found that the sweet spot number is 16 girls each summer, 8 Jewish Israelis, 8 Palestinians, and those Palestinians are split between those from the West Bank and East Jerusalem, and then also Palestinians living in Israel. And we've just found that 14 to 16 young women per group just allows them to create the connections with one another and bonds with one another that are the most effective and powerful.
How old are the young ladies?
15 to 17 years old.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. So again, it's all about finding that sweet spot.
Yeah.
And we found that 15 to 17-year-old, they're old enough to be able to have really mature, challenging conversations. And then also young enough that they are willing to learn from each other, learn from our trained facilitators, still impressionable.
when the girls come, do they know does a young Jewish Israeli girl know any of the other girls from her area? Are they all coming not knowing anybody else on the group?
That's a great question. For the most part, they don't know anybody. Perhaps there have been times where two young women from the same school, they might know each other, or same kibbutz community. So perhaps there have been some of those circumstances where they've known someone coming in, but it's also we think it's also really wonderful that they meet each other for the first time.
They're open. They're probably more open that way.
Yes,
they're all in it. They're all the same. They're all in it together.
Exactly. And there's such an equalizer to this process of taking them out of their homes, out of the conflict, to a neutral territory, Santa Fe, where they speak English. So it's nobody's dominant language, Arabic or Hebrew. And it's just for some of them, for the first time, they are just on equal ground and trying to work towards the same goal together. And Cris is going to read this quote from Nurit. It just really sums up what it is that
in terms of impact, which Jim asked us to focus on for this presentation too. It can't be better said than in the words of our own participants. So Nurit said of her camp experience, I saw that the conflict has faces and names. It's not just about territory and nationalities. Now, when I see something involving the conflict on the news, it has a personal connection to me. I will never look at it the same way again. That's really important component of camp, reframing and understanding the different narratives that are happening in the conflict. Both sides are being given different storylines, and the separations are intense. So this is kind of a reckoning and a coming together. The other component I did want to bring out across all our programs that's very important, I think that really distinguishes our work, is that we use senior participants, we call them senior young leaders, in all the programs to be mentors and guides to the girls that are having their first experience with the interactions. So with our camp, we bring 4 young leaders, 2 Palestinian, 2 Israeli, to be mentors to the girls through the camp experience. We do that also in at the project design and implementation. Second part, after camp, they can go into the Advanced Leadership Initiative, which runs over usually 6 to 8 months. They get social impact training, and then they work on proposals for cross-border projects, compete for microgrants, of which we fund 3 for each class. In the picture, you see a yoga class that was developed by one of the graduates. Karen Kestenband said of her experience, everyone's heart opened. We were all crying, cries of pain and difficulty, and at the same time, cries of excitement, togetherness, and knowing the good that there can be. I came to teach yoga, but left full of inspiration and love for our power as women to change reality together. And that really speaks to the impact that this can have, particularly when women lead, be it small community projects or other initiatives, which many of our graduates go on to lead, and we'll share a little bit about that later. Another example of an ALI project is the checkpoint language class for young Palestinian women to help them navigate the very perilous checkpoints that are often so dangerous and violent, particularly for women that don't understand the commands that the Israeli army are giving them in Hebrew. So this was a language class to help them understand, key commands and key phrases in Hebrew so that they can get through those checkpoints safely. Another program is our Gaza Girls program that connects young women living in Gaza with Palestinians in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and also their peers in the United States, the peace ambassadors. Together, they share stories, they build connections, and they gain leadership skills. And a new facet of the program this year is they're also going to be designing and implementing a community project in Gaza, which is super exciting. Another small micro grant funded program underwritten by Tomorrow's Women, but designed by the girls and led by the girls. And we don't name the girls in Gaza because it's unsafe for them to be named. So this is a quote from one of our Gaza Girl participants. "It gives me so much power and hope to realize that despite our distance and differences, we can open up to each other and take a chance to be truly human." And that is a common sentiment across all our programs, a humanizing component to engaging with each other across the barriers and the borders. So our last but not least program, our Peace Ambassadors in New Mexico. These are young high school age girls that we're recruiting from Santa Fe, Albuquerque, and northern New Mexico. They learn communication strategies, compassionate dialogue, conflict resolution, and intensive cross-cultural exchange with young women in our camp from Israel and Palestine, and also virtually through Gaza Girls. They have an oral storytelling project they're going to be doing this year on the place where they live, helping the Gaza Girls write the story of their experiences where they live and post them online to digital forums. The Peace Ambassadors lead local and global social change projects. In fact, they're presenting tomorrow their social action plans. And I'm really excited to see where they're going to go with that. The cohort this year decided to actually stay connected and combine all of their social action plans and work together as a collaborative group to engage and drive change locally and globally on projects that are important to them. And Citlali Rodas was one of our PAs of recent years. She said, "This program has had a large impact on my life by educating me about the Israeli and Palestinian conflict. History is important, but personal stories are valuable because of the strength they have to touch people's hearts." And indeed, the experience that Citlali had with the Peace Ambassador program drove her to choose Arabic studies as a major. She's learning both Hebrew and Arabic and hopes to become both fluent in both those languages. She's currently at Smith College, and she's an example of some of the tremendous life-changing impact that the program can have on our participants. So I'm going to pass over to Alana now to lead the rest.
All right, thanks, Cris. Okay, I think there's an echo, so if you're able to
Let me
mute.
just turn off my sound.
Wonderful. But you keep running that PowerPoint. You're doing it so much more smoothly on your computer. Fantastic. Okay, so we work with these young women. We make this very deep impression. They are different people when they leave our program. And then what? They return home. They continue going through their lives. And what impact? What is the impact of our program on their lives? Well, very basically, they're fundamentally changed. These are our future mothers and leaders. So what kind of conversations are going to be had at the dinner table? It just continues perpetuating, changing the narrative, changing the dialogues that are happening. And that is something that you can't even put a value on. But something that we can quantify a little bit more is, what do they go on to do with their lives? Our alumni go on to become human rights lawyers. We have one currently working for the United Nations, where she is working with refugees all over the world. A lot of them find their passion and become activists. For example, we have an alumni who has been named in Forbes 30 most influential under 30 because she organized protests for tens of thousands of people in Israel protesting violence against women. And this last example just is really touches my heart. We had an alumni who started a preschool for Jewish and Arab children. So those children will know nothing but having little friends to play with who are different and look different and have different traditions and different cultures. But when you start that young, realizing that we're just kids and we're friends, it makes a tremendous, tremendous difference in how somebody is going to grow up. So the extent of which their influence can then reach so many new audiences and so many communities within Israel and Palestine is really phenomenal. Just the ripple effect of this program. And then next, we're going to talk about ways I believe that you can get involved. All right, this is where you have to pay close attention. We rely on our 3 pillars of support: time, talent, and treasure. Volunteering at camp. So this is one of the most incredible ways that you can get involved. So our 3-week peace camp that will be starting July 17th through August 7th this year, we rely so much on volunteer support. It makes it not only economically feasible to run camp, but also the connections that our volunteers make with the young women. I don't know who's benefiting more from this. It's a very special, unique opportunity. So different ways to volunteer during that 3-week process. Meals. We rely on volunteers for lunch and dinner almost every day for 3 weeks. And so our volunteers provide that food, either homemade or takeout from a restaurant, and they come and deliver the meals, and then they can sit and enjoy a meal together and have that one-on-one time and connection with the young leaders. We also rely heavily on our chaperones and drivers. So during staff meetings, the chaperones can come and hang out with the young women. They can bring an activity or not. They can just spend time together. And then along the lines also of those meals is obtaining donations from local supermarkets, restaurants. We love our cuisine here in Santa Fe, and it's really special to get to share that with the young women. And so we have volunteers who are out helping to recruit those types of donations that really make camp possible. I highly, highly encourage everybody. This is a great way to start getting involved in our organization. Come volunteer, come spend an hour, come bring a meal or chaperone for an hour and get to meet the young women and have that personal connection. And it's really a phenomenal way to do our part here in Santa Fe. Yes, CJ, we have a question.
Yes. So in this list, it occurred to me, given the goals of your organization, that perhaps you would prefer to have women volunteers working with girls rather than male volunteers. Could you speak to that? And are there roles in particular that male volunteers would be apt at filling?
Great question. We are an organization for women, run by women. However, we cannot do our work without our male allies. So absolutely, men are welcome to come be volunteers. Many members of our board are men. Our board president is a man. So we love volunteers for however one identifies, male, female, or anything else. You are welcome to come and be part of our volunteer team. Another way in which we are looking for community support and help is helping to recruit and mentor the young women for our Peace Ambassador program that Cris shared. That is our local program where we are constantly seeking young women who are teenagers from New Mexico to be part of that program. And as at the church, you have wonderful families, and I'm sure many teenagers, and just to help spread the word throughout your communities and the places where you touch, to say, hey, there's this program out there, teenagers, you should get involved. Joining our newsletter is a great way to keep in touch and in the know about all the really fantastic programming that we do. And a lot of it's really fun, cooking classes and community events. It's really a fun organization as well. So by joining our newsletter, you can keep in touch and up on all of those exciting things. And we can't run without proper funding. And so if that is a way in which you are able to support us, we absolutely, we rely 80+% on individual donations to run our organization. And so that is something very important, to keep the doors open, keep these young women coming back to camp every year. It costs about $100,000 to run camp between all of the flights and all of the logistics. And that's why things like meal donations are so important. And that's why for those who are able to donate financially, we rely on that so much. So we hope this is just the beginning of our relationship together. And there are lots of ways for you and your church community to partner with us. And yes, perfect timing. We are ready for questions.
So yes, so one question I have is, if one wants to get the newsletter, what does one do?
Great question. Let's head back one slide if possible. There's a link right here, tomorrowswomen.org/newsletter. And I can send this to you after, so you don't have to take notes right now. We can send this to you. But on our website, tomorrowswomen.org, you can just learn a lot more about the organization. And that's another place where you can sign up to receive the newsletter. Great question. And I am excited to hear. It sounds like you will be signing up soon.
So it sounds like another way to support your organization without a big commitment would be just to explore your website. And could you tell us what all is on your website?
Sure. Well, our website just goes a little bit more in depth to what we talked about today. So let's say you watched this and you said, I want to learn more about this camp experience, or I really want to see what the young women are doing after camp with their lives. Those are things that you can find so much more about on our website, so much more about the programs, real life stories, some beautiful photographs, and all the different ways in which you can get involved and support us. So it's a worthwhile trip to our website. Mm-hmm. Okay, keep going.
Okay, so I have another question. So the program has been going almost 20 years. Mm-hmm. So some women are maybe 35 years old that have gone through the program. Do you try to keep tabs on people that have gone through your program?
That's a great question. And we do. We keep in touch with many of our alumni, and that's done in several different ways. Some of that is done through programs that we offer as the young women are growing older and growing up. For example, the Young Leadership Initiative that Cris explained to us, that is open to an older group of young women. So that is one way that we stay engaged with them. We just got back, for example, from a tour throughout California, where we had 3 of our alumni come join us on the tour, and they spoke at many events, reached about 1,000 new people through 10 days of speaking. And that is another way in which our alumni are able to stay involved. As Cris said, they come back as senior leaders. So there are so many ways that we keep, I don't want to say keep tabs, but keep in touch. And it's so great when you chat with the young leaders. There's such a commonality that they all feel like they have joined the sisterhood, they have joined the second family. And so many of them they want to keep ties with us. They really feel like we are such a support system for them. And with each other. This is something that I find so powerful. Whenever conflict erupts in the region, they check in on each other. They have group messages on their phone, or they have very close relationships with each other, and they check in on each other. So
could I interrupt just real quick, Alana? Yes. All of that is fantastic. But that being said, there is always more work to be done engaging our alumni. We have an advisory council that's all youth leadership from our past participants, be it Peace Ambassadors, ALI, Young Leader program that's very important, Gaza Girls, that we're leading. But there's also building larger networks and connecting internationally with peace building and youth-led peace building in particular. And so one of the targets that we have identified is connecting with the United Network of Young Peace Builders, UNOI, based out of The Hague. They have direct connections with United Nations. They have large, wide-reaching podcasts. And so our goal is to join that network and get our girls plugged into these larger networks so that they can use, one of the things that they learn in our programs is using the power of their personal narratives and storytelling to engage, to inform, and to transform the conflict and how we frame that conflict. And their stories broadcast on larger networks is a very important part of advancing social change in the Middle East and other conflicts around the world. And that's a big goal, and we're working on that diligently and hope to see some rewards in the next few years.
Well, thank you for that, Cris. That was an interesting addition. If people are traveling to Israel, is it possible for them to make contact with your organization in Israel? And do you have a standard way for that to happen, or could you comment on that process?
I think, Cris, unless you have something to offer, that would probably be a question for our executive director. We do have staff and obviously many participants over in the region, and perhaps that would be possible. Cris, do you have anything to add to that? If not,
what we've done in the past is we've partnered with a socially conscious-minded tour group, Meji Tours, and we've done socially conscious touring of the Middle East and sites that bring the two groups together as leaders and co-tour guides for socially informed tours of the Middle East that involve our staff. We don't have specific offices because we're such a small organization. People are working from different locations, but those tours that we run are one of the more popular ways that when you go to the Middle East and you want to engage, to bring people into the program in that way. And I believe that we're going to be planning for our 20th year anniversary next year, another tour at some point in the near future, maybe next year or the year after.
I believe.
Are you saying you have you're going to have a tour where you're going to advertise for people from Santa Fe to go for your 20th year celebration in
Yeah,
Palestine?
it's not confirmed, but we haven't done a tour because of COVID disruption for several years now. And so part of what we're looking at, I can't say for sure, but I do know it's in discussion, in active discussion. I can't promise that we would have it ready by next year because it's so dependent on so many factors, but definitely in the near future, we're looking at running another tour like we've done in the past.
Okay,
and it would be open to people from Santa Fe and all over the world who are interested in that kind of socially conscious tour that involves both of the perspectives, kind of co-leading and sharing the history and the perspectives of the key sites.
It also might be a way to raise funds to your organization. I want to thank you all for the time that you have given to us. And I want to thank our listeners, both who are present here and future listeners who may be listening to this. I think you certainly have elaborated my impression of your organization. And I think I understand that what we do today really is planting seeds that will bloom and flower in the future. And I think your organization, you've demonstrated today how some of those seeds have found good soil in which to grow. So thank you both for coming and for presenting. And hopefully we will make up for the audience we had today by future listeners. And
this is great. I really enjoyed this. Yeah, I learned a lot.
So much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate your partnership, and we really look forward to continue our collaboration, our relationship as organizations. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay,
today.
thank you.
Ma salama and shalom.
Shalom.